number 1. And looks, I'll just say, looks can be deceiving. So if I classify that, let's classify that 2 ways. By sides, well, by angles and by sides. If I classify that by angle, in other words, it's either the right triangle, obtuse triangle, or acute triangle. Which is it? Like I said, the looks can be deceiving. It almost looks right triangle, but we better check that. I need to, if I only have 2 of the angles, I can figure out the third angle, because I know, that's why I mentioned that little fine detail just a second ago. All the angles of a triangle add up to be 180. Okay. So isn't that third angle what's left over? If it's 180 total, then whatever these 2 minus 180 from 180, that's what this one is. All right, so this angle is what? 91? Yeah, it's 180 minus the other 2, which is 91. Which is, and what angle? Is it a right? Right's 90. Is it acute? No, acute's less than 90. This is an obtuse, isn't it? So it's an obtuse triangle. Number 1. So what about the other? By side length. Is it an equilateral, isosceles, or scaling? Now, what I would tell you on that, I don't have any of the side lengths given. However, I will tell you that the side lengths go in proportion to the angles. In other words, here I've got this is 91 degrees. This is the longest side because it's directly opposite the 91. This would be the shortest side, and this is medium side because it's opposite. They're proportional. The side lengths are proportional. Well, that being said, what is true then about, are any of these sides the same? No. None of the sides are the same because they're all different angles opposite them. So which one of these 3 is it? Scalene, yeah. So it's an obtuse scalene triangle. Okay? Number 2. Have a little flag looking one. Here I got 70. Here I got 40. Same question, classify that one. Well, again, on a problem such as this, you need to know all 3 angles. That's your best bet there. What is this third angle here? Well, since they all add up to be 180, it's whatever 180 minus the other 2. Okay, that's a 70. Okay, so this one's 70 also. What is that telling me? 2 sides are the same? Okay. Yeah. 2 sides are the same because I got 2 angles the same. What kind of triangle is that then? 2 sides the same? Isosceles. So it's isosceles. That's the actually the second classification of them. But what about this? Is it a right or an obtuse or an acute? Be acute, wouldn't it? All the angles are acute, less than 90. Okay. Question or concern? All right. Also, here, let's talk about classifying quadrilaterals. Talk a little bit about classifying quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals also can be grouped, well, there's three separate groups we can group these into, and some of them have subcategories. And we're going to do these by parallel sides. Probably most familiar with these, the parallelogram. So usually we think of the kind of the sideways tilted quadrilateral like that, right? In a parallelogram, yeah, you got two sets of parallel sides. Two sets of parallel sides. Now, we might note there are some subcategories to parallelograms. Actually, the rectangle is a parallelogram, isn't it? You know, not all parallelograms are rectangles, but rectangles do come into the category of parallelograms, right? Don't I have parallel sides here? Parallel meaning they don't intersect. If you extend them, this and this intersect. You know, so parallelograms don't necessarily have to have that slant to them. Can be squared off like that. Well, if that's a parallelogram, isn't this one too? The square? Yeah, square is just kind of a specialized rectangle. All sides are the same. And then there's one other one. Like I said, we usually think of this, but there's also what's called a rhombus. And it's just, again, another specialized form of a parallelogram where all sides are the same. So that's kind of the tilted version. Now, what you might note there is that a square actually is a rhombus as well, isn't it? Because in a square, all the sides are the same. You know, it's parallel, two sets of parallel sides. Isn't that a rhombus also? Square's a rectangle and a square's a rhombus. Yeah. It's just that a square is a rhombus with 90-degree angles. But anyway, those are just some subcategories of your parallelogram. Okay, but there's also quadrilaterals where you don't have parallel sides, both sets are parallel sides. There's a trapezoid quadrilateral, and the deal on the trapezoid is there's one set of parallel sides. Trapezoid. This is probably most often thought of trapezoid. There are others. You know, we got four sides. Side 1, 2, 3, and 4 there. In this case, 1 and 3 are parallel, right? Now, if I number these off, which sides are parallel there? 1 and 3, right? Okay. So they don't have to have these sides parallel. It can be these parallel. So just as long as you've got parallel sides. Okay, and then last but not least is the trapezium. maybe one you've never heard of, but there is such a thing as a trapezium, and it's no parallel sides in your quadrilateral at all. Probably the easiest one to draw these is the kite shape. There are others. Just to draw another one, but yeah, there's no parallel sides, and you know, one way you can see that if you if you try here, these aren't parallel because those aren't parallel. Just set a pencil or something there. Yeah, those aren't parallel because if you extend them, they're going to intersect, where these are parallel. They don't straight up and down. So either way you go, they cross. Here, there's no parallelness at all. So there's no parallel sides, okay? Trapezium. All right. Question. So that's our quadrilaterals and various things of those. Let me mention one other quick thing on this section. We're going to talk a lot more about perimeter, but in this section I do have a couple of problems where I want you to find perimeter, so let me mention it here right now. Perimeter measures what? Distance around. For a polygon, it's just the sum of all the sides. So if I have a regular hexagon with sides of 4 feet, what's the perimeter? Well, the key ingredient there is it's a hexagon, so how many sides is that? Hexagon? You don't know your pentagons? 6 sides. Six sides on the hexagon, so what's the perimeter? Well, you do 4 feet 6 times, right? 6 times 4? 24. Yeah. Yeah, if it's a regular, just take the number of sides, multiply it by your length of your side. Okay? So it's just a matter of knowing it's a nonagon, how many sides is it? It's 9 sides, so that's one nice problem we can ask on those to test your knowledge of these, basically, if you know what a hexagon is compared to a nonagon or a heptagon.